Hey everybody, welcome back to Barbecue by Biggs. I'm Aaron, and today we're tackling that easiest piece of meat that you can smoke. That's right, the pork butt. But not only are we going to do a pork butt, we're going to do an awesome slaw. We're going to throw those together and make one heck of a pulled pork sandwich. If you want to see how this thing turns out, come along with us. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. We got about a 10-pound bone-in pork butt that we're going to get into here. Try to keep all that juice in the bag. So once you get it out of the bag, you just want to pat that dry with a paper towel. Don't wash it in your sink. Just get as much of that liquid off of it, off your table there. A couple paper towels to get that done. All right, so looking at this piece of meat here, it looks pretty darn good. Sometimes they have a big, thick fat cap on it. Sometimes you want to trim that down a little bit, or you could just leave it. Looks like it has a big size on this side, doesn't have very much on this side. Doesn't really matter, there's enough fat in this meat that it'll be fine. All right, so we're gonna get this thing rubbed up. So we're gonna be cooking this in our big fills offset. The fat cap is gonna be faced towards the top, so we'll start with the bottom side with the fat cap down when we're going ahead and putting the rub on. That way the presentation side of this pork butt will be in pretty good shape. So when we're doing this, we're gonna have a binder. So you can use any binder that you want to. You can use oil, you can use mayonnaise, you can use mustard. Mustard is what we're gonna be using here today. As far as rubs go, today we're gonna use the notorious pig rub from PS Seasoning. There will be a link down in the description for you to pick some of that up if you haven't tried it. This is an awesome rub. You can use just about anything that you want that's pork based. Remember, this is a big piece of meat. With that being a big piece of meat, you need a lot of rub on it. So when you do put your rub on it, make sure you go generously on it. If you just barely put any rub on it, you're not gonna have a whole lot of flavor. So get your binder on there. If you don't want to use a binder, you don't have to. The binder, I feel, makes a better bark, so that's what we're going to use. So we're going to use the yellow mustard, just any kind of yellow mustard. It could be the cheapest stuff from your little food store down the street. And we'll just put that mustard on pretty healthily. Get that all rubbed in, bring it right back. So now that we've got a good binder on this thing, we're going to go ahead and get the rub on. Remember, like I said before, put it on thick because this is a big piece of meat, and remember, you're just putting rub on the outside of it, so you want to make sure that when you do shred this in the pulled pork, you get all that flavor on the inside as well. So like I said before, we're using the notorious pig rub, and we'll just go ahead and get that started. This stuff has a lot of large chunks of seasoning in it. We've used this before and it's awesome. We'll just pat that in. Don't forget your sides. Yes, sir. Get it all rubbed up on that side. We'll flip it and do the same on the other side as well. Get in there thick. It's got a lot of red pepper flake, a lot of large pieces of pepper. This stuff works good on pulled pork. If you haven't tried this, there will be a link in the description below. You got to give it a shot. It's some really good seasoning. Make sure we don't waste that seasoning that we popped on the bottom. There we go. All right, we got it all rubbed up, ready to go onto the smoker. Next thing, we're gonna get that Big Phil's offset smoker up to temp. We'll let this sit on the counter for maybe 15, 20 minutes, let it sweat, let that seasoning get in there, and then we'll get this thing on the smoker. So we'll see you outside. All right, so we got our Big Phil's. You see they're running between 275 and 300. So ready to put that meat on. Fire looks good. All right, she's ready for us to get it on. All right, for this cook, we're gonna be using our signals unit from ThermalWorks. It's Wi-Fi. It'll allow us to monitor these temperatures from the inside. Just get this hooked up. I'm gonna use one of the probes just to keep track of the the pit temp over by where I'm cooking. And the other one will stick into that pork butt when we bring it out. So as you can see, this thing will allow us to quickly look at the temperature, what the probe into the pork is, and then also what our grill temp is right where our pork is. So we'll go get that pork butt and we'll get it on. So like we discussed inside, you can see that sweat came through most of that seasoning, just have a couple of dry spots. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing on. Running right now, around 250. It's about time to add a stick. Great time to add your meat. We're gonna go on with it. So running right about 250 degrees, we're gonna add a stick to bring it up to about 275, get that good smoke onto that cold meat. We'll do that now. We are going on with a smoking rack. It's just gonna make it easier when we reach that internal temperature that we're looking for. So we just take this pork butt and we turn it into the pan and then go ahead and get it wrapped up. So we'll get our probe, we'll get it right down in the middle of this. That way we know exactly where we're at throughout the day. So we're gonna put this to bed. It'll be in here for about 2 hours or so before we even look at it. Once this starts to firm up and we start to get the bark that we're looking for, we're gonna go ahead and start spritzing. That spritz is gonna consist of half water, half apple cider vinegar, and we'll get that together when we go. So we're gonna get this put to bed. We're gonna bring you guys back inside to make that awesome coleslaw. We'll see you guys inside. All right, now that we got that pork butt on, we're gonna get this coleslaw taken care of. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take a medium size, this was a little larger, but medium sized red onion, clean it up, and then we're just gonna slice it really thin. Cut that in half. We're just gonna take it, just gonna cut some thin slices. All right, once we got those onions thinly sliced, we'll go ahead and add those to the coleslaw. So we're using bagged coleslaw. As you can see, this tricolor, it's got the green cabbage, red cabbage, and carrot. Pick this up at Sam's Club. This is a double pack. So a normal pack of coleslaw at your grocery store is gonna be about 16 ounces. This one is 32. So if you do go to the regular store, it's a 16 ounce. Cut our recipe in half for this coleslaw. We like it, and you know what? You can use it on just about anything. Tacos, you can put it underneath fish. You do a lot with it. So we'll just add that to the bowl. Something to remember when you're dealing with acid, in which we have some acid in this, you want to use a bowl that's not steel. So we got a glass bowl here, and we'll get that mixed up in it. So we'll just take the sliced onions, put those on the top, and then we'll get our wet ingredients together. This is a real easy coleslaw to make, and man, it is delicious. One thing about it though is as soon as you get through mixing it, you can eat it, be a little bit crunchy, doesn't have as much flavor meld, but man, if you put it in that refrigerator for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, and just kind of stir it up as you go along, man, you won't beat it when it comes out after it's been sitting and all those flavors are melding together. All right, for the wet ingredients, we have 1.25 cups of mayonnaise. So you can use Duke's mayonnaise, you can use Kraft, whatever mayonnaise you prefer. Just about 1.25 cups or so. You might have to add a little bit as you go along and you get this mixed up and you want it a little bit more creamy, but 1.25 cups seems to be fine. So to that 1.25 cups of mayonnaise, we're gonna add 6 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. So that's red wine vinegar. All right, we're gonna add 4 tablespoons of granulated sugar, just regular old sugar. 4 tablespoons of that. We got a tablespoon of kosher salt. We have a teaspoon of kosher salt. We have a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. And we have a 1/2 teaspoon of granulated garlic. So we'll mix this real well and get it ready to pour into the coleslaw. So once we have those wet ingredients really mixed, we're just gonna pour those right over the top of our coleslaw mix and those thinly sliced red onions. All right, got 2 choices here. You can dig your hands in, mix it up real well, or you can get some tongs. I just cleaned my hands, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get those dirty. Once you feel you have a pretty good coating on it, you're gonna wanna cover this, put it into the refrigerator, like I said, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, the longer the better. So we have probably about 5 hours or so left on our pulled pork. That's gonna work out perfectly. And we'll just come about every hour with a pair of tongs and mix this up a little bit more. All right, we got it good and mixed. We'll just get the edges cleaned up and the counter cleaned up and go ahead and cover this and put it in the refrigerator. And we'll bring you guys back in a few minutes to check on that pork butt. All right, we've been on for 4 hours now. We hadn't looked in on it. We've been watching the temperature anywhere between 250 to 300 degrees, depending on when we put that split on there, but let's take a look at it. All right, like we said, we've been on for about 4 hours. Oh yeah, it's looking good. You look, rubs all tacky on there. It's time to spritz. We have half water, half apple cider vinegar. We're gonna go ahead and get that spritz now. Just get you a good old spritz on there. If you want to use a sopping sauce, you can. It's just easier to load one of these sprayers up, spritz it, and then we'll come out here about every 45 minutes and spritz it. Our internal right now is about 118 degrees after about 4 hours. We're gonna wrap at about 165 or so, or depending on when we get the good bark that we're looking for. So we're running at about 118 internal right now. We're looking for that 165 or so to wrap, depending on what the bark looks like. We're looking for that really dark bark because we want to make sure that we have that real smoke flavor into that meat. So we'll just get spritzed down one more time and we'll put this thing to bed. We'll bring you guys back in a couple hours. We're going to spritz this about every 45 minutes to keep it really moist and be able to take in that smoke and be able to give it that flavor. But we'll bring you guys back in a couple hours, let you guys take a look at it. I'm going to bring you in right now and let you see what it looks like at this point. As you can tell, the bark's set up good. You can see that all those seasonings on top of it. Man, it sure is looking good. All right, we'll see you guys back here in about 2 hours. And at the same time, we're in there tossing that coleslaw about every hour or so to make sure that it takes in all the flavor too. See you in a couple hours. All right, welcome back. We're about 6.5 hours in. Let's look in on this thing and see how it's doing. We've been running along about 260, 275, 300 when we put a split on. Oh man, it's looking good. Starting to split here on the fat cap a little bit. It's getting about the kind of color we want to be able to wrap it. So let me bring you in and let you look at it. You still see all that nice rub, texture on the top. Man, this thing is looking fabulous. All right, looks like we got about a couple of more hours to go here. Internal temperature is about 142. It's looking real good on the outside. Put this thing to bed. We'll bring you guys back at the wrap. Let's get it. All right, we got this thing right where we want it to in color. We're gonna bring you guys in, get this thing wrapped up, get it put away for the finish. About 7 hours in here. This thing looks great, right where we want it. Oh, it's looking good. Let me bring you in and let you look at this thing. Color looks fantastic. Fat splitting on the top. It is looking great. We're gonna get this thing pulled off and get it wrapped. All right, for the wrap here, we're just gonna put it in one of these pans. That way, any of the juices can stay in the bottom. We'll be able to use that when we do shred it up for the pulled pork. Go ahead and give it a healthy spray. Keep that thing moist. Get this thing wrapped up. Put our probe back in, right into the middle there. All right. We'll bring you guys back when we're finished. See you then. All right, after many hours, this thing is done. Look at that bone separate from that pork butt. I tell you what, it turned out fantastic. We'll just take our claws here, get this thing shredded up, and get it ready to go onto those sandwiches. We're gonna pull that coleslaw out of the refrigerator. We're gonna go ahead and take some tongs and get that all mixed up. That way everything, all those flavors are melted together. And then we're gonna put this sandwich together. So we usually take our buns, we slather it with mayonnaise. We take that mayonnaise slathered bun and just throw it on a grill. And I tell you, that golden brown crispiness makes for one heck of a bite on a pulled pork sandwich. So we're just gonna take these, throw them on the grill. There we go. Now we're gonna build our sandwich. We got our pulled pork, put that on there. We're gonna get our coleslaw, get that built on top, and then we're just gonna take a drizzle of barbecue sauce, put that on the top, and I tell you what, it is one heck of a sandwich. Why don't you look at this thing right here? I can't wait to bite into this thing.
That's what I'm talking about.
This thing is delicious, and you know what? Good. We'll see you guys on the next cook. Take it easy.